We cope in different ways. So, I put this down. I need my hands free. Do you need to talk with your hands so much? Yes. I feel like it's been forever since I've done a spoiler video. In a case like this, though, I feel it's very important to examine the body. So if you haven't seen Dial of Destiny by now, this is my spoiler talk video. Going to talk about some spoilers. Not going to be a play-by-play, but just going to talk about some things I couldn't talk about in my spoiler-free review. Now, before I get into it, what I appreciated, Harrison Ford. The man's a professional. He clocks into work. He and Mads Mikkelsen both do. In fact, most, 99% of the people in here are great in here. I gotta give it up to Harrison Ford though. 80 years old, still in top shape, still going at it. Now I will talk about how they made Indiana Jones an old grumpy version of Indiana Jones who literally knocks on his neighbor's door, like pounds on the door, tells him keep the music down. But that doesn't mean Harrison Ford doesn't put in the work. How a character is written, what the script does with the character, and the actor's effort, two different things. I do appreciate that. That said, let's take a breath. Let's get into it. Now, like I said in my spoiler-free review, the first 20 minutes of this movie, that's the movie. The whole segment dealing with de-aged Indiana Jones, who sounds like old Indiana Jones. It was so funny. He's like young Harrison Ford, and he's like, "Oh, you Nazi fucks," paraphrasing. But he still does what I'm saying. He still had the gruff, groggly old man voice. I almost promise you that when this movie has its home release, the next day, some fan out there is going to de-age Harrison Ford's voice and make him sound young. And then there we go. And then Lucasfilm will hire that person. But that de-aged, deep fake, young Indiana Jones face is... A lot of people have bitched about it more than me because it bothered them more than it bothered me. But all in all, the spirit of adventure and essence of Indiana Jones did feel like Indiana Jones as he was in the original trilogy. Then we fast forward to 1969. Funny thing, here's a little quiz for you. Character has his happy ending with his wife and son. Then they lose their son, and that loss breaks up their marriage, and now Character is an old grumpy version of himself. Who am I talking about? Han Solo or Indiana Jones? It's a trick question. Both. It's so weird. That's what Lucasfilm does with Harrison Ford characters, apparently. Any school student who did that kind of copy and paste from one report to the next report, the teacher would be like, no, you have to do a new one. You can't just copy and paste the old one. Do it again. Unless you're writing a Harrison Ford played character for Disney Lucasfilm, in which case that would be fine. So now Indy teams up with his goddaughter, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who plays the daughter of his friend played by Toby Jones. So my spoiler-free review, I was like, they could have made the dynamic between these two work. Because, you know, Indy is an old grumpy asshole and she's kind of a miserable asshole herself, and they could have leaned into that and said, hey, we're helping each other. Be a little happier in this adventure. That said, they didn't do that, and she absolutely came across as arrogant, tries to act overconfident, not in an organically confident way, but in that way insecure people try to posture confidence. Just comes across as hubris, makes the person seem completely unlikable, like you don't want to hang out with them for 2.5 hours. Yeah, that. And that's beside the fact that when she's not selling archaeological artifacts to underground black market scumbags, she's locking the cage trying to get Indy killed. Oh, but they're supposed to be pals. I felt like John Malkovich from Knockaround, guys.
You are unlikable.
Tell you who was awesome. Shawnette Renee Wilson as the CIA agent. If you need a female character to team up with Indiana Jones, the setup with her was absolutely there. She's a CIA agent going after Indiana Jones, and then the other CIA agents she's working with start killing people, and she's like, what the fuck is that? Dude, that's not how we do it. Turns out the other CIA agents she's working with are Mads Mikkelsen's Nazi goons. So she could have been like, screw this noise, Dr. Jones, we're teaming up, we have a common interest, we have a common goal. We gotta stop them, and they've infiltrated the CIA. It's personal to both of them at this point. Why not have them both team up? Also, more interesting setup rather than be like, yeah, he had this friend that we never heard about, and that friend had a daughter that we've never seen before. Trust us, goddaughter, they're close. They're not. So I've seen internet talk a lot about this, and I agree. Short Round teaming up with Indy for this final adventure would have been awesome. Would have been a cool bookend too, since in terms of the timeline of Indiana Jones' adventures, Temple of Doom takes place before Raiders of the Lost Ark, so it's like Indy's first adventure and his final adventure are both an adventure with him and Short Round. And you know that scenario was brought up too. I would love to see the roundtable discussion as to why he was not brought into this film. Brr, the film is done. It's in the can. It comes out in mere months, and I must say we made the right call. Ke Huy Quan lacks the star power, I must say.
Mom, I just want an Oscar.
Fuck! Oh, I'd love to be a fly on that wall. So Shia LaBeouf not coming back as Mutt. I get that. But you remember that concept called recasting? It's almost like that's a thing Hollywood's forgotten is even possible. Can you imagine a world after Iron Man 1? It was like, oh, well, Terrence Howard is out as Rhodey. Guess we gotta kill the character in a car wreck or whatever. No, you recast the character, you move on. Having Mutt be played by another actor could totally work. It's also been 15 years. So that's kind of advantageous. Like, he doesn't look exactly as in. It's been 15 years. But if you're gonna not have him in the movie, have writing him out make sense for the character. Not every 30-something, 40-year-old man has to be hanging out with his 80-year-old father for every adventure. You could just have it be like, oh yeah, he's in Montana with his family. Hanging out, doing his thing. No, there wasn't even a fallout. I see him on the holidays. We talk all the time. I wrestle with the grandkids. It's fine. But then if you do that, you won't have Indy be grumpy and sad. And I guess that's what they're going for. Point is, why have his character join the war? Dude, he was part of the Fight the Establishment crew, you know? It just didn't make any sense to have his character join the war. He didn't get drafted. He signed up. If you're gonna kill his character, kill him in a car wreck like a decent stupid script. So fast forwarding past all the CGI scenery and CGI chase sequences that weren't really exciting to me because CGI chase sequences, we get to the Dial of Destiny. So the Dial of Destiny is based off of the Antikythera device. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope so. And if not, well, it's pretty par for the course. Actually, a pretty miraculous and amazing device that shouldn't exist per when it came from. Best people can figure, this device that's thousands of years old is the world's oldest computer. Wild. But for the sake of the movie Dial of Destiny, it can sniff out fissures in time, so you can fly through these tears in time like you're looking for the Langoliers or some shit. Because Mads Mikkelsen's character, who's the only one who sells this premise, by the way, he's like, I'm gonna go back in time, I'm going to kill Hitler, I'm going to take over, and then I'm gonna win World War II. It's actually pretty scary. You don't want that to happen, so let's get to it. Let's stop them. They go through this tear in time. They find no Langoliers, but they do find Archimedes because they've flown 2,000 years into the past. The whole army there thinks that these planes are dragons, and so they start attacking them. I actually did like that detail in here. It's like, oh yeah, they would see planes as dragons. Why would they not? The problem I have with it is the fact that they go back in time, and Indy's pretty much like, I've been shot. I think I'm gonna stay here. Yeah, I just want to die. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character's like, no, you can't. You're gonna die of dysentery while fording a river. Like, you know, you can't do it. You're gonna die of infection. And he's like, just let me die. And she's like, sorry. Pow! Knocks him out. It fades. And then he's back in his apartment. Karen Allen comes in, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character and Sala, who's a cab driver now, they all take off. Sala starts singing because, you know, Raiders, nostalgia bait. And they're like, that's not enough nostalgia bait. They'll have Indy and Marion have the conversation of where does it hurt? Here, kiss the elbow. Here, because, you know, like they do that whole thing. There are rumors out there that there was an original ending that they then refilmed a new ending to. James Mangold says, no, that's not true. And then John Williams said, oh yeah, I had to do a new script. There's like a whole don't know, don't care, because I don't know what the original ending, if there was one, was at all. I do know that everything post knock Indy out, from him waking up in his apartment to all the nostalgia bait that just stumbles into the end, feels like an ending that was written in about 4.5 minutes. If that. It's just like, all right, solid nostalgia bait, Marion nostalgia bait, fade to the hat, the end. So that's the flyby. Going back and talking about the problems I have with the end of this movie is that it doesn't line up with Indiana Jones. First of all, it's too clean. Indy always had this element of, oh, archaeology and mystery and enchantment and horror. Faces melting, hearts getting ripped out, dude becomes the crypt keeper. Even Cate Blanchett's character wants all the knowledge. She gets all the knowledge, she can't handle it, her eyes glow and flame up, and then she turns to dust. This movie has nothing like that. They go through this rip in time, talk to Archimedes. Indy's like, I want to stay. She's like, nope. Boom! Knocks him out. He wakes up in his shitty apartment. It just bothered me that the ending of this movie came across as such a clean version of an Indiana Jones ending that didn't feel like an Indiana Jones ending. The concept, the argument against Indy staying there is that she's like, you can't stay here. You're gonna screw up time. Of course, Indy's like, would that be so bad? But they found the tomb of Archimedes earlier, and Archimedes had drawings of phoenixes with propellers on them, planes, and he had a watch that he gets from them. The fact that they found that before they went into the past implies what's going to happen has already happened. You can't change it, you can't alter the past, you're just fulfilling destiny. Thus, leaving Indy in the past wouldn't lead to a present any different than the one you already know. If you leave him in the past, the present you have is because you left him in the past, and it always was, always has been, always will be the case. If they found the tomb and Archimedes did not have a watch or drawings of airplanes, and then maybe that tomb did have those after they had gotten back, then yeah, you can change the past like Back to the Future. But the fact that those changes were already there before they even went to the past, that speaks to a different thing. And I don't think leaving Indy there would change the past at all or change the present at all. I mean, it's a question for the philosophers, but I do think the way the movie set up time with the watch in the tomb before they went back into the past, it raises a question as to whether or not leaving Indy there would actually change anything. Choice is a very important thing in the hero's journey. You know, the Indiana Jones trying to reach for the Holy Grail, and his dad's like, let it go. And he's like, you're right, I have to let it go. I have to make that choice. Han Solo taking his money and just flying off being like, peace, have fun with that Death Star and have fun dying. And then having the choice being like, I should go back and help them. Imagine if in Temple of Doom, you know, Indy wanted to go after the stones because he wanted his fame and glory. And you're right, it was going to be his big moment. And then he elected to give the stone back to the town because it was the right thing to do. But imagine he gets the stone and then Willie's just like, nope, pow. Then he wakes up and she's like, I gave the stone back to the townspeople because it was the right thing to do. The ending of this movie kind of lands like that in a way. So I watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. After I did my spoiler-free review of Dial of Destiny, I was like, I should just pop that in and watch it again. So I dusted off that disc I called a coaster, and I put it in and I watched it. I think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is better than Dial of Destiny. I feel there's a very solid argument for that. They actually both run into the same negatives: over-reliance on CGI, noticeable green screen. So when comparing the two movies, those kind of cancel each other out. So looking at Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the grievances that movie has are moments. Nuke fridge, dumb. But on the other hand, pretty memeable. I've shown people that, just be like, you want to laugh? Check this out. Shia LaBeouf swinging on vines. But that's a moment, and then it's done, and you never have to see it again. But Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has a pretty sweet motorcycle chase sequence. It's better than any of the chase sequences I saw in Dial of Destiny. The pacing is also much tighter. It's location, location, and location. We're in the last act, the movie ends. Dial of Destiny is a half an hour too long, has too many locations, just tries to feel too big for the adventure we're on. I don't need these big green screen locations, big green screen city streets. Put us in the jungle, ancient Greece, have some baddies with guns coming after us. Just be practical about it. At the very least, have good pacing. But the biggest thing is Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull still felt like an older Indy, but Indy nonetheless. Dial of Destiny Indy feels like, yeah, we have to have an aged Indy because Harrison Ford has indeed aged. But bright idea, let's have him feel about as fun and adventurous as Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino. So that's where I am with Dial of Destiny. If you want to compare it to Crystal Skull flawed, but maintain the spirit of Indiana Jones. It's Lucas and Spielberg of that era. A lot of CGI, cheesier than the property had been at times, but the spirit is there. It is great to see Harrison Ford back, donning the whip, but the character just doesn't feel like the character to me. In a world where escapism of cinema is a thing, I don't think Indiana Jones had to meet us on the train to Grumpy Fucksville just because we're gonna get there. I get why he's grumpy. They killed his kid. He lost his marriage. Why would he not be? It is funny to me that it feels like Harrison Ford is putting in the work, but Indiana Jones, the character, doesn't feel like he wants to be on this adventure. Dial of Destiny feels like a very safe, clean, sterile, too long in the runtime, and ultimately less interesting Indiana Jones fanfic. All right, so Disneyana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.